And my number one gripe of this entire film is there is absolutely no way that David had a full-size industrial ladder in his small New York City apartment. There's no way.
Okay.
That's it.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone. Stabbing noises. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not putting that in the sound.
Okay, great.
That
fine.
will not be a sound effect.
Sorry.
It's okay. Cool. Guys.
Actually, wait,
yes.
it's funny because my first like for this movie is a shout out to the sound designer. So
My
stab noises is
gosh.
perfect. But like, I'll let
There
you
you go.
continue.
The Foley artists on top
Oh
of
yeah.
it. Run
Hey,
them their
MVP.
money.
Top tier.
MVP, top tier. Guys, well, obviously, you already have noticed that there's going to be a lot of stabbing in this. If you're watching us on the YouTubes, you can see our merch for all of the things, because today we are talking about the movie that single-handedly is the reason why millennials will not answer their phones, won't do it, can't talk. It's the 2023 American slasher film, Scream 6. So much stabbing.
Sounded like 6 paper cuts.
Oh my god.
Back to back. It's really
Yeah, back to
hurts.
back stuff.
I mean, it's a pain. Great. So this movie was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, and it was written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. And it stars Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Roger L. Jackson, our fave Wednesday Addams, Jenna Ortega, Skeet Ulrich coming back as Billy, and Hayden cousin Skeeter, and
Oh man.
Hayden our favorite Kirby, Hayden Panettiere, and of course, Courtney Cox, trying to keep her relevance in the game with Scream 6, and I'm sure we'll talk about all of that as well. So obviously, heavy spoilers for Scream 6, and we'll probably be talking about the relationship with all the other movies. So if you haven't watched them, it's okay. Go listen to our podcast, and then you'll know all that you need to know, and then come back and listen to us talk about Scream 6. And Jamie, tell us all about the trigger warnings in this movie.
Hey, I mean, it's a slasher, so it's your classic inside on the outside, and they're coming in hard with insides on the outside. A lot
Yes.
of these are very, very brutal killings. So again, lots of stabbing, lots of slashing, lots of cutting. We stumble upon already dead people, a beheading, just very gruesome. Very gruesome kills, stabs in the back, stabs in all of the body parts. Am I missing non-stabby things?
Heights.
Oh, I think that's it.
Heights.
Heights.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
if you have a fear of heights,
Shoots and ladders.
might.
PTSD. Trauma.
Oh, yeah,
PTSD.
We're gonna
Crowded
talk a lot
subway
about trauma
stations.
here.
Oh yeah.
Public transit.
Yeah, public transit's a great one. Oh
True.
yeah. Also,
That
if
is
you don't
definitely a
like
trigger.
colleges and universities, this one probably won't do it for you as well.
Yeah, frat parties.
Bodegas. Bodegas.
It was missing a bodega cat, which I think took away from its
I agree. Okay,
authenticity.
sure.
For the
Hoarding.
authenticity.
Hoarders.
Hoarders. Oh my God. So many things. The introvert in me was screaming. There's too many people around, touching shoulders. It's not for me. Beautiful. Well, before we get into things, producer Brian, can you give us some words and then we'll get right into it?
Yeah, well, first, before we talk about the fact that we're on TikTok and YouTube, hi, everybody, at Talk Horror Pod. I guess I've already done that, Instagram and Twitter. We're bringing back one of our favorite guests,
Hi.
Matthew Woods. Check out Hallow Woods on Instagram. His art is spectacular, but he is one of the biggest Scream fans I know. He was on our Scream 5 episode. He's also on our Halloween Kills episode.
Yes.
Probably better off he was not on our Halloween Ends episode. Yeah, and honestly, one of the huge reasons before I met Jamie that I was so into horror and like got I've seen a lot of horror because of him, and I've taken a lot of his suggestions. One of the best experiences I had was he has Monday Monster Nights in October, and we watched Trick or Treat one year, and I just like became obsessed with Sam.
Did I introduce you to Trick or Treat?
Go, Sam.
That was my first time seeing it, and I was obsessed. He's my favorite.
We
Oh,
love
yeah.
Sam.
Yeah. And I can't wait for if they ever make a Trick or Treat sequel, I will be there Thursday night, no question. But today we're talking Scream. So Matt, before we jump into Scream 6, remind us, I said it already, but remind us what they can find on Instagram. And then I would love to, just as a reminder, your thoughts on Scream 5 before we head into Scream 6. If you want Matt's complete thoughts on the Scream franchise, check out our Scream 5 episode. I will link that in the comments. In the description below.
So you can find me on Instagram at HallowWoods, or my website, MatthewWoodsArt.com. I am an artist and illustrator. I do a lot of spooky Halloweeny stuff. I do some fan stuff. Right now, I am auctioning little illustrations of ghosts dressed as Ghostface.
Yes.
But yeah, give me a follow on social media. It's a good time, I promise. Years ago, when I first met and started dating my husband, our second date, we did a Scream marathon. And at the time, it was just 1, 2, 3. And so it was easy. We were like, let's watch all 3. Yeah. And now it is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which it's maybe going to have to be 2 days.
Yes.
But so I rewatch all the Scream movies at least once a year. And so I just watched the last 5. It was the first time I watched 5 since seeing it in the theater. It took me a year to come back around to it. And
Sure.
I still really liked it. And I'm going to touch on a gripe that I have with it when we talk about 6, so I won't get into that now.
Yeah.
But I think that
Sure.
for me, it does a great job of its purpose, which is a requel or a reboot or whatever, of like kickstarting the franchise again with like new likable characters and like kind of ushering the story into a new direction that feels relatively organic. Like, I want to stick with these characters after 5.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, I mean, we're going to get into all of it in characters because, I mean, there's a lot happening in this and a lot of good to talk about as well. So before we get into that, we need a 2-minute plot summary of this. And
What's the plot?
I think that our special guest, Mr. Matthew, would love to take on this
I
challenge.
will.
So
I will.
We'll
You're
give you
that special.
Double special.
that special.
I will try and not screw it up as badly as I did for 5. I left out Dewey's death in 5, which was a major plot point. But yeah.
Forgot all about that. So, who's going to time? I think it's
I'll
producer Brian.
Yep, I'll time it. This is your
Oh God.
and don't worry, I didn't click the calculator, so we're like on track.
Yes, already a
all
good
right.
start.
Matt, 2 minutes. What happens in Scream 6? Go.
Exterior, New York City. We push in. It's New York. Samara
Yes.
Weaving, gorgeous Samara Weaving, with her beautiful Australian accent, is sitting at the bar. She is waiting for her date, who is lost. Her date calls to try and get directions. She goes outside to try and help him find the restaurant. obviously walks down a dark, deserted alley, of which there's probably only one of those left in New York City. And surprise, there's a killer in it, and she gets stabbed to death. The killer takes the mask off, and we get a killer reveal in the opening scene. I think the first.
Yes.
The killer goes home, cleans up, gets a phone call from a different killer, his boyfriend, his roommate, who's a partner to him. They have a back and forth. He gets killed. Oh, fuck. He gets killed, finds his partner. The killers are already dead. Sam, she's in therapy. Her therapist is dumping her. The rest of the group are at a party, a frat party. She goes to pick up the rest at the party. She gets harassed in public about conspiracy theories. They go to the police station and on the way get attacked in a bodega. We meet Kirby, Detective Bailey. They're leaving masks from the other movies of the franchise. Gale gets punched. The Core Four have a tender moment. They escape being attacked via a ladder to Hot Boy's apartment. There's a shrine. Gale gets attacked in her apartment. They set a trap. They get attacked on the subway. They get attacked in the shrine. Is it Kirby? Is Kirby the killer? It's not. It's, what's his name? Richie's family. It's the detective, the dead roommate who was really not dead, and Ethan, his brother.
Nailed it!
Woohoo!
Right
We
in
did it.
under the wire there.
And that's the plot.
Yes.
I got through it.
You got through it. Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful.
The beginning
Yeah.
was my favorite
New
part.
York City, center of the universe.
New York
Concrete
City.
jungle. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, let's get into our first segment, which is likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
And I'm going to say, Brian, do you want to start us off with the likes and gripes and kind of tell us your relationship or how you
Yeah.
felt about Scream 5?
4 hours later. Okay, so
Yes.
I recently rewatched Scream 5, same as Matt, had not seen it since movie theaters, and I liked it so much more better the second time. I think that once you get all the plot points out of the way, I think the movie does a spectacular job of introducing us to new characters and actually trying to say something about fandom. So I think that it's actually really, really good. I also think that it does a spectacular job of ending Neve Campbell's story. And I think that, you know, she passed on her final girl. She passed on her trauma. She was more okay with who she is in the end, and it helps Sam kind of like understand that like it doesn't go away. It stays with you forever. I thought that's all excellent. But I watched it knowing that she's not in this one. So like I had a very different, you know, feeling about that.
Yeah.
I've seen Scream 6 twice.
Wow, super fan.
Okay.
I loved it. It is top 3 Scream movies for me. Like, I fell
I
in
get
love
it.
with it. I think that Scream 5 is a better movie. It's a better 2-hour narrative journey, but this one is 10 times more fun.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
I just absolutely, I chase, as a movie fan, as a horror fan, I chase that adrenaline of like when the movie ends, you're just jacked up. And this movie gave me that like times 10. So like super, super into it. But I'm going to start with my gripes because I want to start there. The opening sequence is a top opening sequence for me. However, Tony Revolori's voice was so clear in the phone call that it really took me out of it. I knew he was in the movie, and I could hear his voice when he's talking to Samara Weaving, and that really took me out completely until until you reveal it's him, and then I'm like, okay, here we go. To me, the movie started when he revealed himself in the alley because I knew it was him. And I was like, did this whole movie get spoiled for me because the sound editing was crappy? Like, it really bothered me. But so that was a gripe because it just took me out of the scene. On second rewatch of this movie, the New York geography kind of checks out enough. So I'm going to leave that off as a gripe. A little bit, like, Blackmore College is on the 2-5 line in Brooklyn, so I'm assuming they're all
think it's
living
supposed to
in
be
Brooklyn in
College.
those apartments.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's where it's filmed, right? On that campus, maybe?
Yeah.
Or it's all filmed in Canada, I think. Then another gripe is, so if they're taking from the train from 96 10 stops lower, you're telling me that theater is in Chelsea? Like, I don't believe that.
Oh, I thought that was the
So that's a
Sunshine
second
Cinema
thing.
that is closed.
And then,
down on Houston Street. I
Oh,
think that's
is
what
it?
it was supposed to be.
oh, okay, because I think 10
Real New
stops
Yorker.
is around like 18
Oh, yeah.
from 96. I counted. Anyway, so that was another one, but like it's fine. I'm the gripe. I am so mad at myself for the movie being Scream 6 directly related to Scream 2, and I just like we'll get to the reveal and why I'm so mad at myself for not guessing it. Like we'll talk about that. I'm the gripe. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's
Hi,
me.
I'm the gripe. It's me. Wait, can I just speak on that?
Yeah.
Because I was really mad at myself because there were all of these fan rumors about Stu, and people were analyzing like the Subway poster and how like Stu's name was kind of like blurred out, and it was just this whole like conspiracy theory. Okay, but I was into it and I was in it, and so when the final reveal happened, I was just so upset that Stu was not involved in it at all. That was, but that's me though. Like that at first that was a gripe for me, but I love that you said that, Brian, because actually no, it's my expectation of what I thought it should have been. It doesn't mean that the reveal was bad. It's just that I wanted it to be something else. So it's not really a gripe.
Yeah, and
I am
this,
the gripe.
and this series has, maybe aside from Jill, has never had a killer who was a pre-established character. Every
Right.
single time, the killer has been a new character in the movie, not including the first one or Jill. The first one doesn't count because they're all friends. It's the first one.
Right.
Jill is a character who exists in this universe, but she's new to the movie, so that's one or the other. So like this one, another great segue. Another one of my gripes was died 1996. Don't you tell me that Stu died in 1996 on the board.
Oh yes.
But then, you know,
That
Mindy
was
has
for
that,
all
like,
of
if
us.
you believe he's dead. And it's like, that was for all of us, and I appreciate
Right.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Another gripe is the trailer. I was able to put pieces together to know what was going to happen in action sequences, intense sequences at the end. For instance, in the trailer, Mindy is the one who gets pushed up against the subway door. So you knew at the end of that, she was the one who was going to be attacked by Ghostface, not everybody on the other train. So like all of that
right.
stuff lives in my head and kind of undercuts the tension of watching it for the first time. So you have that. I wish the knife kills were more interesting. I think there were some really interesting kills, but I thought the knife stabs were pretty monotonous. Same stab, same place every single time. Totally fine. That's the MO. If I look back, it might relate directly to certain kills that the Ghostface had. I'm wondering if that happened. But like that's a whole nother level of dissecting this movie. Dissecting. I don't think this movie had much to say. I think that it starts to get into cancel culture and then stops short of actually saying anything about it. Maybe it's just cancel culture because they're trying to break Sam down to break her, and they're using cancel culture to do that. But I don't think the movie says anything as interesting about society as Scream 5 has to say about toxic fandom. Maybe it has something to say about toxic parenting, but we can talk about that as well. The logistics. How did nobody know that these pieces of memorabilia / evidence were missing? 2, the theater in general, I don't know if I believe that like this abandoned theater, like nobody like saw people going in and out. Anyway, also, I don't understand if Detective Bailey changed his name. He still needs to be a registered cop to be transferred. I'm really confused about the logistics of how he became a police officer in New York, even though his last name was like, what's Richie's last name? Kirsch or whatever it is. Like, I just got very confused by those logistics. But again, that's me on the second viewing, but like, wait a second. My other gripe is people. I'm just really sick of TikTok people being like, I saw Scream 6 and I actually liked it. It's like, get over yourself. Get over yourself.
Right.
This is not high art. Oh, you actually liked it because Nev Campbell wasn't in it, or like get over yourself. This is not the narrative they're saying. I'm so sick. I mean, you're probably doing it for views, but I'm so sick of being like, I actually liked it. It's like, yeah, of course you did. It's Scream. Who cares? We all like the third one.
cares?
Like we all like the fourth one. Like it doesn't
Yes.
matter. Like we got what we came for. The people bother me. When people come back to life, it undercuts the deaths in this, but like it's also Scream, so I don't care. But like it is what it is. Core 4 forever. I don't believe that David wouldn't go and run and knock on their door after she didn't answer the phone. When Ghostface was in the
girls' room.
Quinn's room.
Yeah.
And Tara is stabbed twice and still walking around. Like, I believe that she is, like, amazing, but, like, that's a lot. And my number one gripe of this entire film is there is absolutely no way that David had a full-size industrial ladder in his small New York City apartment. There's no way.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes.
Unless he quickly ran to the roof and like pulled it from like his, the super, and then like put it there. But like, didn't, no way. However,
That scene made me
was
so
incredible
nauseous.
that it immediately left my brain. All right. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Likes. The sound. I'm gonna go through these quickly. The sound. I'm shaking because I love this movie so much. Sound design and editing. All the dripping blood and the tension. Like truly Foley artist master. I thought this was emotionally and viscerally satisfying. I was so mad the first time we watched this a little bit when she was holding that mask at the end and she's like, "What should I? Is this still inside me?" Her throwing it down on the ground. I didn't need a lingering emotional cliffhanger. I didn't. And this movie was just like, hey, like Sydney told me in the movie before, I am going to carry this regardless. So I need to do the work on myself. Just like my sister is able to, I'm able to let go of my sister. I have to let go of Billy. I have to let go of this. Whether it comes back in another form in the future, fine. But in this one, I don't have to like think about it on a daily basis. Like, ugh, is she going to become a this or that? Like, over that. So happy. That was a like. I did like the overt, like, let go of me. Because at least it
Yes.
led to like a super cool fucking badass Jenna Ortega moment. This movie felt like the characters and the creative team could breathe a little bit. It feels like all of the work that they did in 5 paid off in this one because they knew who the characters were. The actors were having so much fun together. In addition to the fact that the trauma from 5 influenced everything here, so the characters had a little bit more of an interesting journey. The opening with 2 kills, great. I love Core 4. I can't wait to watch a million more movies with the Core 4. They're just so deeply charming. Question for the group. Sure, there were 3 killers in this, but were there 4 or 5? Do we consider Scream 6 a movie with 5
The
killers?
2 in the beginning, yeah.
Oh, because of the ones that happened at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Greg on the phone never did a kill before. That's why, like, he's like, oh, you practiced? I want to practice. Like, so I can imagine it being a 4, but there are 4 people who are after Sam in this movie. One just happens to get ghost-faced at the beginning. So my question is, like, is this a 4 movie reveal? Is this a 5 movie reveal? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a hard question because, I mean...
Because Scream 6 has 4 ghost faces.
Right, but that was only to set up like the main ghost
Sure.
face, So I don't think it, in the context of, and Ghostface is someone who has killed like multiple people already, right? And so like the 2 at the beginning, like one never killed someone, and then this one like only killed one person. So like if we're trying to go down the serial killer path, I don't think I would consider the other 2 a part of like the Ghostface legacy.
Sure.
Like they're
I would say
copycat
that
killers, not
Sure.
Yeah.
not the actual real
Right.
thing.
Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. I think so. It like the victims in this movie, we got a lot of nameless victims, people that died in the bodega. Courtney Cox's boyfriend, who doesn't even get a name, he just gets cut.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first movie to have like extras like that fall by the way of Ghostface. And
Oh,
so
sure.
I think that those people will just like probably not be referenced and fall away. Kind of like the killers in the very beginning, I think that they may not qualify. They may be just like the copycat.
Cool. That's an interesting. I like that. We're not gonna. Yeah, because like if we're gonna rank our favorite kills in this movie, like her boyfriend doesn't even come close to making.
Like he dies off screen.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. The double knife clean, amazing.
Yes.
After they kill Chad. Oh, Matt, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we see two Ghostface killers on screen at the same time in full regalia? And I'm not talking about like going to the bathroom in Scream 2 and she sees like, you know what I mean? I'm talking about like two actual ghost faces where they have the full regalia on. Not like one has already revealed itself and the other one comes in. Like full, the two killers in mass killing.
I think you might be right. I think this is the first one where they're like two, or is there even a moment when all three of them are dressed up? No, the cop never dresses up.
No, because he comes in after like in the with Kirby,
In his
like
police stuff.
But yeah,
Well,
I think you're right. There's two fully dressed killers in this.
And has Gail never really talked to Ghostface? I was really intrigued when she was on the phone and they were just talking about like that Gail had never actually talked to Ghostface herself.
Does she talk to
Has that
him
happened?
during the
I thought
barn
that
sequence?
happened.
The movie barn sequence, or no?
No. She talks to Dewey on the phone as she's going.
Oh, Dewey, right.
So I think that was really interesting, the fact that throughout all of this, Gail's never talked to Ghostface.
Also, these movies have a little bit of gray area between like what actually happened in the movies we've seen and how Stab portrays those, because like
Fair.
would a Ghostface this many generations in actually know if Gail or talk to the voice changer or not? I don't know, but it was still for us. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
These movies
right.
are all just
Right.
you know.
They're for the fans.
Yeah,
It's all
exactly.
good.
All right. Something else I love about this. I love that we can all add another. If you liked it, I don't know yet because I'm taking up a lot of time. I love that we can add another one best Halloween movie, best movie set around Halloween to our lists, and
That's a good one.
best like New York setting lists.
Yeah.
So here's a question for the group: do you think this movie used New York enough?
I think it used the horrors of New York enough because the subway system is a horror movie. And I think that it's just enough for you to be immersed in the claustrophobia of it all. Because there's a lot of people around. We have the parties, we have the subways, we have even just kind of walking through the parks and the bodega things. I think that it's just enough without having to push in your face. We are in New York. I think they use just the right amount, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that the real thing that works is the ability to hide in plain sight, right? Fully dressed up as Ghostface. It's Halloween. There's like 30 of them on the subway. And so you never know who's actually after you and who's just like some drunk kid on their way to a party.
Sure. Jamie?
Yeah, I agree. I think that like between that, the park, like walking, I mean, campus-ish, but like the bodega, like I think there's enough set pieces that it feels exciting enough that it's taking place in a different location and, you know, like highlights some of the New York experience. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what else would have been like a good set piece in New York that would have made sense. But it's like both public enough, but still where you could still be vulnerable. And I think they chose locations well for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This felt like a group of young adults living in New York, and this, like, there wouldn't have been a chase scene through Times Square. That wouldn't have been believable. That would have felt like a movie.
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
exactly.
Like, the only thing I may have wanted is the Halloween parade in the village. But aside from that, like the subway got it done, especially with all those Easter eggs. Easter eggs is another one of my favorite likes from this, just in general. We can talk about this more during someone else's turn, but just the pure echoes of Scream 2 in this, from literally the screen and the finale happening in a theater at the end to like the familial reveal. We'll talk more about that. Shout out to the last podcast on the left. The horror podcast. We got a full poster in the opening scene. So cool.
Oh, word. Yes.
The subway scene, the tension and cutting between the two was, pun intended, cutting between the two was really great. I just think that this movie proved the strength of the Scream concept outside of the actors who we know make up Scream before this. I think that was really impressive. Is Kirby going to become their Gale or Dewey? Counting down. I liked counting down to Billy and Sam. Was this our first police officer? Now that Dewey is dead, I found it fascinating that this is our first officer or somebody of the law who is actually the bad guy. We thought it was going to be, what's his name, when we watched the fourth one for the first time, I thought it was going to be Patrick Dempsey, who gets another shout out in this one. But like, I think this is our first like law enforcement to actually be Ghostface, which is fascinating. Post a Dewey in a post Dewey world. Damn. Great fake out. Quinn talking to her dad on the phone while being killed as Ghostface. Spectacular fake out all around. Fully got me. Jamie whispered to me during the movie, "Oh, it's the cop and his daughter." And then the daughter dies like 2 scenes later, and we were like, "Oh, damn!" What like? The airdrop from David from next door was an excellent use of technology. Supportive parents coughing up. Oh, Quinn coughing up her teeth. Fantastic. The after credit sequence. Chef's kiss. And last thing I'll say is our theater cheered more during this movie than any Marvel movie I've ever seen there. When every single bad guy at the end got like killed or their teeth knocked out, cheers. When Kirby turned that chair around, cheers. When Mindy and Kirby were going through their favorites from franchises, cheers and booze. And then and maybe more importantly, the theater cheered when she stabs Dermot Mulroney in the face, and then Ortega turns to her and goes, "Nice." Like,
Yes.
so that's everything I have for this one. I've got quotes on quotes on quotes that I will bring up if we talk about those scenes. But sorry, I took forever, but I fucking love this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I will go next because I only have 3 things because Brian has said everything that I like. I don't want to repeat
Great.
everything.
So sorry, I've ruined the whole
Yeah,
thing.
no. It's all good. But I want to piggyback off of because I wanted to start by talking about the theater experience because I knew that I only had like one time to see this movie because of the shows for the weekend. So I texted a couple of people from the cast, and then we had a huge turnout of people from our Hamilton company come out and all watch it together, which was really special. And so we were in this 3:00 afternoon showing of Scream, and there were a few other people in the audience too. But it was really nice because it was a small group, but we were all so interactive with it that it made the viewing experience so wonderful because everybody was cheering and, you know, when things were happening, we're just all in it. And I think the moment that had the most volume in the audience was when Gale was fighting Ghost Killer, and we think that Gale's got him. And then the Ghost Killer takes that piece of glass and stabs her in the side. The audience just went crazy. Everybody was just up in arms, just because we were all so in it. And I just want to also point out the fact that, I mean, I've been to movies with my castmates a lot, and I love them, but they love talking through movies. But when I tell you everyone was just so quiet during a lot of the parts because they were so into it, and I think it's just a testament of how much, and a lot of these people aren't Scream fans, you know. There's only a few of us that really like knew the franchise, and there were some people who this was their first Scream movie that they've ever watched. And to that, I will say that what I enjoyed was the little bit of exposition that's given in the therapy session with Sam, because then you can get an idea of kind of what is happening without really having to go back and feel like you're totally lost in the world. So I think that Scream did a great job of, if there are new people watching this, they're able to follow along with it. I love everything about this. Love all the ghost killers. Love that ghost killer had a gun in his hand. That sent chills down my spine just to see him without a knife for just even for that second. And I love that this movie doesn't take itself too seriously, yet it puts out such great content. And this was definitely for the fans, and it doesn't have to be too extreme. And like Brian said, there wasn't a lot that the movie was trying to portray, but it was just a fun time all around. And one of my friends pointed out that this movie didn't have a big kill in it. We were talking about like Dewey's death and all that stuff. And so I was just wondering, and I don't know if you guys know anything about what the movie would have been if Sydney was in it, but I'm wondering if Sydney was in the movie, would there have been like a big kill? Like would Gail still be alive, or, so I don't know. I just kind of think of what would have happened if Sydney was in this movie, and that people who were in the previous movie, they all lived in, and now will be, I guess, in the next Scream movie, but there wasn't like a Core 4. But I was really expecting like a Gale to die this time, or whatever the case may be. So it was just really interesting that there wasn't a huge kill. And the last thing I'll say is that I loved all of the Halloween costumes, and there was someone dressed as Wednesday Addams. There was someone dressed as the Midsummer Flower May Queen. There was like Us, and it was just so nice that it was so updated without having to be so kind of in your face that we're in this time period, if that makes sense. Because I think some movies that are coming around, it's so trying to gear itself towards Gen Z or whatever. And I feel like that's how Hocus Pocus was, in a way, of just trying to make sure we put all of this new technology and blah, blah, blah in it. But with this one, it just feels like you get all the nostalgia from the other movie, but it's just set in this time period, and you don't need any extra things to make it appear as though we are in this time period, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll watch it again. 10 out of 10 for me. Everything was great. Loved it. Matt or Jamie, either one?
Yeah. The audio is my top note on here. It was so good. They used Red Right Hand. They used Dewey's theme. When she's talking about Dewey, they used the Marco Beltrami. When they're coming out of the police station, all the reporters are asking questions, like in the first one. Like the music and the sound effects were like when they're in the shrine and they're running up the stairs, the audio that's playing is she's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting. And like those moments were just like, oh, you did so well with the sound. The New York apartments were another one of my likes. They lived in a tiny little apartment where the bedroom fits just a bed. And things like that.
Just a bed.
And obviously, Gail's a TV star. She has a nice, big, beautiful apartment on the Upper West Side.
Sure.
And,
Upper West Side, yes.
And my last like is Melissa Barrera's eyebrows are just so perfect.
They're fantastic.
They're so perfect.
Fantastic. Yes.
My gripes are that this was super violent, which is like stepping away from the first three, which is a natural progression. I get it. It's like bigger, grosser, it's more modern, violence in cinema. Like that has always been a conversation in Scream, but like gross.
What was
I loved it.
to you? What was the most violent
It was the
kill of them all?
The stab in the gut and the twisting of the knife where you see the skin grab the edge of the knife and twist with it. I was like, oh, I can't, that, I don't know if I can look at that.
That's the Anika one? Her girlfriend?
Yeah, I think so.
On the mantle?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Oof, too much. My biggest gripe is something I had with 5 and that I have with this movie. And that they have wonderful set pieces. They have important, big, mind-blowing locations that they are going to reveal in these movies, and they blow it in the trailer right away. If they had walked into that shrine and I didn't know it, I would have, like, screamed in delight. Like, that shrine is somewhere I want to go.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like with Stu's house in 5, if that was a surprise, the audience would have lost their mind. but they give it away
Right.
immediately, and that's a gripe of mine.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with
That's a
you
great
more.
point.
Our society makes such a big deal out of trailers. It helps sells the movie even more now. There's a whole industry in trailer reactions and all of that stuff that like moments like that take away from the actual first viewing experience. I could not agree with you more. Totally. Like even if the trailer just said like, "Oh man, they're dropping masks from previous killers." Like, cool, whatever. And then you get the full shrine in the movie. Like, yeah, I totally agree. So wait, Matt, I have a question before we move to Jamie. I can't tell from your likes and Greg's. Did you like this movie?
I did like this movie.
Okay.
My gripes are small.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you like it in comparison to 5? Like, which would you choose to want to watch again, 5 or 6?
I think 6. I think I like it more than
Okay.
5
Yeah.
because I think I said this when we talked about 5. I'm ready for this franchise to go off the rails.
Right.
This is them like dipping a toe in that water. Right? It felt like big. It felt funny. It felt like a little bit over the top at times. Like, come on, let's Ghostface in space. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Ghostface in
Time travel.
space.
Time travel, yes.
Oh man.
Step 5 has time travel.
Can you imagine if the next one was time travel and they de-aged everyone in the first one?
Oh God.
Do you know what I'm saying? Just like Skeeter, cousin Skeeter. Because those
come on.
flashbacks, I was like, they're putting some CGI on that boy, and I love that he still has that fucking 90s Boy Meets World haircut too. And
Right down the middle.
favorite.
Part it right down the middle.
Parted right down the middle. Always love it. All right, Jamie, give it to us. Your likes and gripes, please.
Yeah, I feel like most of the things have been said, but I really do like the way that they portray different types of trauma responses in our two leads. And because it's like different, you have Sam, who's like still very much like reeling and like wants to face it, and also definitely wants to explore like, you know, what is it when she thinks about it and like thinks more positively about killing, like what's going on there. Like she wants to be able to unpack that. And unfortunately, it seems like the therapists that she encounter are not skilled enough and, you know, willing to engage in that with her, which sucks because it's like you have somebody who like has insight that like wants to lean in, like that's an ideal client right there. Yeah. And they're all just wasting, you know, I don't have time for lazy therapists. So I really liked her. But on the flip side, you have Tara who like just wants to go back to normal. She's avoiding dealing with all of that stuff and just wants to like just, you know, bypass all of the pain to go right back to the way that her life was or is supposed to be. And that's also very real. Like as humans, like we do not like experiencing pain or distress. We will do whatever we need to like not have to deal with it. So it felt very real, especially as a young person who's like, I'm in college. Like I just want to live my life. I want to make bad decisions. Like, but like it's my stuff, you know, like that felt like a very realistic response as well to the things that happen. So I really, really like that. One of my like more minor gripes is that the other two characters in the core 4 don't really seem to have any responses to the trauma. We're not like getting as much into them, which again, they're not like the primary characters. So I get that. Right. But like, I don't know. They're just, you'd think that there would be more of like, wow, we like really went through some like difficult stuff. And then we get like Mindy going through the rules, which I loved. Obviously we talk about rules all the time. We are a rules positive podcast.
Oh my god!
Yes.
But I was just like, come on, Mindy, like
rules.
Give us the rules. What's gonna happen?
But I was like, where's the like, you know, a little bit more. But I also get it that she's like, you know, the relationship to Randy and like him not necessarily also taking some of it as seriously, like respecting the rules, but maybe even a little bit more fearful of the rules than they feel like Mindy is. Mindy's very matter of fact about everything.
Yes.
And I just wish that there was a little bit, or there are moments where she's like a little bit more fearful, like when she's actually getting stabbed. But like I wish that there was a little bit more of like, this is like scary, but this is what I've learned from it. And so here are the things that we have to abide by to protect ourselves. It's just more of like, this is just how things go. And so like, let me tell you.
Right.
all.
Especially if you just said that everybody is up for grabs as far as dying. So
Yeah.
now you know your chances are greater of dying. And then even in the scene where they're in the van and she mentions like her uncle died in a van, but there's still not a sense of like fear in that. That's such a great point. So I didn't even realize that.
Also,
Yeah, so-
spoiler alerts for other franchises in this one. Like, if you didn't know how, like, Star Wars or James Bond or some of those other ones ended, then you're just, like,
Oh, yeah.
fully spoiled in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they like tried to pick franchises that are like so well known that hopefully people were like,
Hopefully.
wait, what? Like in the theater,
is
like
Luke's
totally
father?
shocked.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes.
I do want to shout out Jamie, because Jamie whispered to me. So
I'm not a bad moviegoer. I just want to.
No.
I want to preface that because when you say that I'm whispering to you, it makes it seem like everyone's like, "Oh my god, she must be the worst to go to the movies to." And I don't know why, but like I was very much in sleuthing mode watching this movie.
Yeah.
I know other
Same.
times people will like just watch it and like take it all in, but I very much was like, no, I want to solve this as it's happening. Also because we just watched Missing, which also has a similar sleuthy vibe where you're trying to figure out what's going on. Also, shout out to Jasmine Savoy Brown, who's also in that. But anyway, I just had like my detective cap on, and I was like going in ready to solve this whodunit.
So
now you can tell me what I did.
Sure. So she had she leaned. So during the interrogation scene, the cop says 2 lines. The first one is, "I think I can vouch for Quinn, so that's one less we have to worry about." The second one he says is, Barrera says this, or Sam says this, "So our roommate's dad just happened to pull our case." Jamie immediately leaned over to me and said, "Oh, it's Quinn and the cop. Like, it's not a question. It's Quinn and the cop. Like this is who it is." And because Quinn, I forget if she says it before or after that scene, where I think it's before that scene.
It's
where
before.
Quinn says that thing about like relating to her because of her brother. And Jamie and I
Yes.
literally leaned into each other like, who could the brother be? Like, what
No,
other
I think
movies?
I told you who the brother was.
Oh, did you say Richie?
Yeah. I was
Oh.
like, oh, it's Richie.
Oh, I must have missed that. But like,
Knew it.
I was such a dummy because I'm just like, well, who could it be? Could it be? And then Quinn dies, and I'm just like, it's still the cop. And then we thought that the other ghost face went rogue and killed his daughter. And so he, as a ghost face, wanted to catch the other ghost face. You had this like weird dichotomy at the end, like trying to trap his teammate, if you will. That was obviously not the case. But I was so mad at myself. I was like full of rage that I was like, of course. This is Scream 2. It's just the family. It's the parent. Like, what the
Right.
hell is wrong with me? This movie, pun intended, phones it in on purpose the whole time. The screen in the theater. It's in a theater. They're at college.
Yes.
They're at college.
Like,
Yes.
Like,
They're
I
at
was
college.
so mad at myself for, and then of course, what's his name from Avatar 2 was the other one. But
So
and
much
that was a good
older.
one.
Still, you know, I could believe that he was definitely one of the killers, having seen Avatar 2, where he's like just ripped and not wearing a shirt the whole time. Like, that guy was buff.
Oh.
So I'm like, yeah, of course he's like surviving all of this stuff and like wild body training.
Yes.
Matt, 1, did you guess it? 2, did you have a similar Jill problem with Quinn in terms of like, no way she's taking out Gail's hunky boyfriend?
So I did not guess it. I'm in the other camp from Jamie. I'm in the like, I'm going to surrender and just watch this movie. I did not try to figure out who it was. I just had a good time. I didn't have as much of a problem with Quinn as I did with Jill and Amber in 5. Mostly because they don't specifically say who did what. Like, you can kind of backwards figure out, well, it must have been that person because this person was here and that sort of thing. but like in 5, they specifically say Amber killed Dewey,
Dude.
which I
So
don't
in this
buy.
one, Quinn does say, "I enjoyed stabbing Mindy and Gail,"
Okay.
but there are 3. So that doesn't mean that there weren't 2 ghost faces in her apartment.
Yeah.
I guess.
Right.
But actually, was her brother? No, her brother was with them, so it had to have been her. It was her. It definitely was her. I only know that because I saw it twice, and I was looking. I was looking for those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like there wasn't a lot of like physical strength that was required. Like she snuck up on the boyfriend and like could have easily
Yeah.
cut his throat right away, and he's down.
Totally.
And then she just chases Gail around. There's no like she gets a dirty move with the piece of glass, right?
Sure.
So she doesn't. It's not like she ever overpowers her or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I'm gonna say I buy it.
Yeah. Also, big like Gail calling back to hear where the phone is coming from.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's Sydney makes that move in Scream 3.
Oh, that's right.
She calls
right.
Roman back.
Yes. Oh,
Right.
Roman, great line. Roman Bridger was the only single ghost face. Kudos to him for ambition.
Yes. Crazy.
Oh, also going back to Jamie guessing it, you kind of can't follow up a scene where Sam says, "Oh, I'll give you my therapist's information," and then he's immediately killed. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like
That was all of the information that the cop had was always related to who was dying and what was happening. And I was like, he's the only one he's like telling them like, oh, maybe like do this like travel in public, like, oh, public transit. Okay. It's like, of course he's in on it.
Yeah. And then he said there was one line that he says, "I've lost both of my kids now," after Quinn supposedly dies. But I thought that his other child was Stu, and that it was just like some relation to that. So I definitely was like, oh yeah, it's the dad, and we didn't necessarily see Quinn die. We just saw the body, and so it's like, okay. So I was like on board with the police and Quinn being involved the whole time, but I didn't think about Richie at all.
Yeah.
in this one. But
I did love his line at the end where he was like, yeah, and then Detective Bailey was supposed to find the shrine, but like Gail just like knocked it out of the park or whatever he said. So I have a
It's called investigative journalism
God.
for a reason.
Exactly.
All right, so before we move into brains, I do want to ask some questions to the group that I think are very important. Did we like Chad and Tara as a ship?
I don't know. It seemed a little forced, in my opinion. Just kind of coming in, but I also need to rewatch. Like, I've only seen 5 when we talked about it in the theater, so maybe I missed something in 5 that could have led into them having that kind of relationship in 6. But just watching it then, I thought, oh, you're just trying to like put people together. There's really no need for it. They're already core 4. You can just leave them at that without having a romantic interest.
Sure.
That's my opinion.
Jamie?
Yeah, I feel similarly where it felt a little forced. I think that like they do have the bond of having experienced all of these traumas together that might bring them closer, but I don't think that that's necessarily like then you need to make them be in a relationship.
Sure. I also completely forgot that they're the same age because he looks so much older than her. Because they go to
So
school.
much
Because they
older.
go to school together. Like they.
Right.
Anyway, Matt, did you like that? Not like that?
I'm fine with it. I think what they're trying to do is like set up, because there was Dewey and Gail were like the relationship in the past, and Chad is kind of slotting into that Dewey spot where he gets like stabbed almost to death in every movie and then gets wheeled
Sure.
out in a gurney at the end. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm still alive, guys.
Yes.
So like maybe like
Not
not
dead
dead
yet.
yet. They're kind of like tying that in. I don't mind it, but I do. In the beginning, Chad is shirtless at the frat party, and they make a point to put Tara's scar on her hand where the knife went through, but that like beautiful ripped body is scar free.
Oh my God, you're
I didn't
totally
even
right.
think about that.
totally
remember
right.
seeing the
Yeah,
hand
being
too,
like, oh, that's
and like
clever.
didn't look for anybody else's. Yeah.
Because even
Man.
Kirby has a scar these years later, and
Yeah.
nothing on him.
Sorry, too
Wow.
gorgeous to put scars
Great
on.
call.
Amazing.
Indestructible.
Oh,
He's
man.
indestructible.
I hate
That's an
this
amazing
movie
point.
now. No, okay.
It was the makeup artist.
Yeah. Next question. Is Nightmare on Elm Street the best Nightmare on Elm Street movie?
Yeah. No, New Nightmare. The
The meta one.
The
the
meta
meta
one,
one.
yeah.
That's my favorite.
No,
the
I
meta
think
one.
the
Just
first
kidding.
one is my favorite.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the first one is still
Me
my
too.
favorite.
All right. What's the best Friday the 13th movie? Is it 2? Is it the last chapter? Or is it another?
It's another. It's 7. New Blood with Tina the telekinetic.
I don't think I have seen it.
Oh, wow.
There's so many I haven't
It is
seen.
like a little
so
bit
many I've
Carrie,
seen.
a little bit.
Oh, let's do that one.
Obsessed.
Let's do that one for the October Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay. I think I know Jamie's answer.
Oh. I was like, I didn't know we were still talking about those ones. Yeah, Jason X is definitely the top tier of the Friday the 13th movies. He goes to space.
I mean,
can't-
yeah.
He goes to space. Yes. I mean, I will say that was along the lines of fun campy. And I think that's what
Sure.
Matt was talking about, that he likes about, the continuation of some of these chains. But yeah, that space one really got me. I mean, that was talk about a fun time. If you just really suspend all of your disbelief and just are watching it, you
Yeah,
know.
the nanobites restore him. It's totally realistic and
freezer
believable.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
the freezer.
That
is
freezer
great.
kill
shattered
is
head.
so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I
That's
will
a
never
top kill
forget that
in like
in my life.
all slashers. I
I'm
will
with
never
you.
forget
It's so
that.
good.
It's so good. Yes.
Okay. Is Psycho 2 underrated?
Yes.
Yes.
I never saw it.
I've never seen it.
It's not Hitchcock, but it's really good.
And it's a female, right?
No,
That's-
if Norman Bates
Oh, just
gets
kidding.
out of prison, rehabilitated, and he's trying to be a good boy so hard, but he gets a job at a diner and there are so many knives around.
I'm dead.
It's very
those
good.
knives.
You gotta put that on the list.
Original Candyman or requel Candyman?
Well, that's both. That's both.
Yeah, I liked both.
I
Yeah.
did like both, but I mean, Tony Todd in the original is just
Yeah.
so good. He's
Yeah.
like such a smooth killer. I love him so much.
Yeah, man, I could just
Yeah.
listen to him like read the script to me, like
Yeah.
that voice.
Yes.
What a hunk! Go back to our Candyman episode to listen about us gushing over how hunky he is. And then, is it based on her whole history? Is it believable that Gail wrote another book about that and wrote, quote, you call me unstable and a born killer? That's taken out of context. That's literally a quote.
I think it's believable.
Yeah. As ambitious as Gail is, she definitely kept writing stories. How could she
Yeah.
afford that apartment otherwise?
Fair.
That's her bread and butter. She can get that New York
Totally.
Times bestseller out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just gonna say, do we like that Kirby's introduction is that she is part of the FBI? Is that kind of believable that that would be her path after everything that's happened? Or did we not think twice about it? It was like, yay, she's just in the movie.
I don't know if I believe that she'd be an FBI agent. I would believe that she would be invested in, like, if there are future ghost faces and would want to, like, go after them. And I guess the FBI is a very effective way to do that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's, like, also, like, pursuing a career based on, like, you know, a hunch that this will continue. Which I
Right.
guess she got
Right.
lucky. But actually, one of my gripes is that they pin her or tried to pin her as the serial killer, and that
Yes.
wasn't believable for
No.
me.
No.
That was like, I felt like they were just throwing stuff at that point
I think-
to try to
Well,
distract
yeah.
me.
Brian mentioned
but I
it
was not
earlier a little bit, but they have never taken someone who has been a victim of Ghostface and flipped the switch and made them a killer. Like, no one has ever
Yeah,
been stabbed
I-
and been like, that was a good idea. I'm going to do that.
I'm really curious because I don't know. When you talk about the franchise going off the rails, one of the like former theories that I feel like is now resurfacing is the idea of Sydney having potentially become one of the killers. And now with Sam, who's like directly facing her, you know, like her history, but also her potential enjoyment of killing, I don't know if that's like the direction that they're planning on going in. And I don't know how I feel about that, with the idea of like, would they then be using her like mental health as a way to justify her doing this? Or like, if it's that, I don't want it. But if there's something else that they want to explore with it, you know, I'm open. But it really depends on like how they would go about that. Cause I have mixed feelings about like, what about that trajectory makes sense? Like, I survived a serial killer. Now I too have a thirst for blood.
Right.
Eat.
Yes.
And just to go back, Gail does say, when do they start to let children into the FBI? I wrote down many quotes.
Oh yeah, I'm 30. You look like a zygote.
Yeah. I also have, at the very beginning, who gives a fuck about movies?
Yeah.
I don't believe that Ghostface would say that because he's doing it for his son, who's creating the movies. So that's debatable. You can do a lot better than date rape Frankie.
Oh God, yeah.
She sends her love, but she's taking Mark and the kids someplace safe. She deserved her happy ending. When talking about
Fair.
Sydney, I think that that's totally fine. I did not miss Sydney in this movie. I think this movie is worse with Sydney because it's not believable that she would put herself into the situation again.
Yeah.
Agreed. The only thing that's bringing Sydney out of
think that
hiding
always-
again is if Gail is in serious danger or dies,
Yes. Or
Yes.
like Dewey.
or if Ghostface directly attacks her and her family to protect
Correct.
them. Totally. Forget about the movies. The movies don't matter. We're hearing from sources inside the homicide division, though the news person says this. We're hearing from sources inside the homicide division that the main suspect is none other than Sarah Carpenter. It's like, yeah, of course, because it's Detective Bailey.
Oh right. Yeah.
Oh, I like when Tara says, none of us can relate to what you're experiencing, and I'm really sorry you have to deal with this alone. I thought that that conversation was really special between them. And then she says, we've all been through a lot of stuff and coping with it differently. Fuck this franchise. Yeah, of course me. And my favorite line of the whole movie was, really good parenting job, by the way, when Jenna Ortega says,
Oh God.
It was so good.
yeah, and then now die a fucking virgin was great.
That was a good one.
My favorite quote was, "Are you pledging Omega Beta Zeta?"
Yes!
A direct reference to Scream 2.
Yeah. I still have your koozie.
So many good Easter eggs.
Yes.
But my major question for all of us before we get into brains is, are we the core four?
For the love of God, please, somebody.
Yeah.
Please.
Core four. Man, Chad is so charming in this. Even when
He
he's going
is.
down, he's charming when he's being stabbed by two ghost faces.
Yeah.
I was very sad when he died. And in any other movie, I would have been like, "Oh, they're bringing it back." And this one, I was like, "Core 4, we're back, baby!"
That's what Scream 7 should be. Core 4, we're back, baby.
Yeah,
It writes itself.
I
It
mean,
writes itself. Although a good when Jamie was just talking about like the line of killers and Sydney, it would be interesting if like, since Sydney has kids, if maybe like the kids would be after Sam and Tara as a way to be like stopping Ghostface altogether, would be to just like end Sam and Tara so that like nobody will go after them anymore, and that'll be done.
It's going in a very
That'd be a
dark
cool concept.
direction.
I know.
But it'll circle back to Sydney.
Jamie did point out from podcasts she listens to that there is absolutely no way that Sam, Tara and Sam's mother does not become a character somewhere down in this
Seriously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I even forgot that Sam was the relationship. Like that's Billy's daughter, and just like that whole concept. Like I want to know what that history is. Like how they met, all the things.
Yo,
because I mean,
that's your flashback.
there you go. We're writing this movie right
Yes.
now. Core 4, we're back, baby. We got it all together. Beautiful. Well, should we get into brains? Because I just need to hear about the therapy session.
Seriously.
From Jamie.
Oof.
Let's
Big
get into
oof.
it. Jamie, okay. We need to put this therapist on our either good or bad therapist lists, and we'll remind everyone who's on our bad therapist list. And then if Sam would have told you those things, what would be your response to that? What do you think is the correct response if Sam had spilled, all those things about how she was feeling? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this guy definitely is going on my bad therapists, all the bad. Thank you.
Welcome to the Hall
big
of
old
Fame.
boo. Big old boo. Because first you have someone who's like pushing and okay, so maybe Sam is not being super forthcoming about like her past trauma, but it's also partially the therapist's like responsibility to like push back in a healthy way around those topics. Like if she's coming in because she wants to face that past trauma, like there's going to be resistance in the conversation, but like it's part of his job to roll with the resistance. Maybe like, reframe like, hey, it seems like we're spending a lot of time talking about your sister Tara, and we're here together. Like I don't know if you've noticed that you seem to be redirecting or like kind of moving the attention away from you. Like even that as a way to just bring attention to the fact that like she's avoiding talking about it. So right. I don't like the way that he does it in a really confrontational way. And also like you have to be really careful about addressing trauma as a trauma therapist. Because like you can re-traumatize someone, like you can cause more harm to a client if you're not really like thoughtful about how you are addressing these topics. And lucky for Sam, she's like, seems to be very strong, so she handles it well. Also probably because she's had so many other therapists in the past who have not done a good job. So I don't like the way that he's like attacking her and being like, you have to talk about the trauma. So then she talks about the trauma and tells him everything. And then you get like nervy pervy therapist who's like now afraid of his own client.
Wait,
He's just,
what
like,
kind of
acting
therapist?
Nervy pervy. He just acted so anxious when she like, yes, this is the clinical term.
Yeah.
He just like gets so like afraid of her. And like there's nothing that she said that his response of like, oh, I have to report this. Like if he was a good therapist, he would assess like, okay, you're talking about like enjoying hurting people. Like, do you want to hurt somebody right now? Like he's not assessing the risk right now. And she even says like, I'm not doing anything right now. Like this is something that already happened to me. And then he's like, oh, I have to report this, which I'm of like two minds about that. One is, confidentiality. People have heard that, like, people hear about confidentiality. If you're in therapy, then you're familiar with like the limits of confidentiality, which is that everything that's discussed between you and your therapist stays between you and your therapist, unless you tell your therapist that you want to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else. She's not saying that she wants to hurt somebody else. She's saying that she enjoyed hurting somebody in the past. Like, there's nothing to report. And if he was a good therapist, he would have evaluated and actually asked her in that moment and assessed her risk for wanting to hurt somebody new, which he did not. So he just jumped the gun and was like, oh, I have to tell somebody about this. And it's like, you don't even know what your own like ethics that you're supposed to be accountable for are, because you're not doing the right thing. So all of that puts him on my list of duty therapists, because he's not good. He's really unsupportive, and just like leaves her in the lurch after being so pushy about it. Like, that's the worst. The worst is that he was insistent on it and then got exactly what he asked for, and then like betrayed her.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Christopher Stone, welcome to Talking Horrors, Worst Therapists in a Horror Movie Hall of Fame.
Yes. Our therapist.
Our therapist.
Horrible therapist.
Wow.
That's so good.
Pat myself on the back for that one. Beautiful. Matt, did you have a question
Yeah.
for Jamie?
I have like the themes I have written down are like family, moral majority, and punishment. They don't use the word revenge. I'm talking about like the killers when they come after her. They talk about punishing, not revenge. And I think that they make that clear in the like way that they cyberbully her, and physically they want to kill her and everyone around her so that she's emotionally in pain and then physically and then dead. But like for the whole family to get that mentality, like how does that work with grooming? Or is it like inherited? Or because like Richie went off the rails first, and then Richie murdered a bunch of people. We're gonna do it too for Richie. Like how plausible is that? How does any of that make any sense?
Yeah, I have like similar kind of questions of like how does something like this happen? I mean, I feel like we've talked about grief and what grief does to people, and like could grief lead to somebody becoming a killer? I don't know, but I think that the there's so much more of the onus on the father, and like at least that's how I'm viewing this, where it's him, you know, taking on the grief of losing Richie, and then like the things that he was able to perpetuate in his children. Because I don't think that there's necessarily something that's like inherited in terms of the punishment, but I think he even references like, maybe I wasn't a good father when it came to letting Richie kind of go off the deep end with his obsession with the stab movies, and like let him feed into that without very little guardrails, it seems. So I think that's more of like, you know, his parenting and being mindful about like what his child was consuming, and maybe not unclear about like how, I mean, part of me is like maybe he wasn't aware how obsessed he was, but on the flip side, he also stole so much evidence from a variety of murders to allow his son to create a shrine of all of these murders. So like, you know, he had to at least have been aware enough to jeopardize his role as a police officer and steal all of this crap. So I don't know, but in terms of like the grooming part, I can, that feels a little bit believable. I don't know, into killer, questionable, but like I can suspend my disbelief for a moment. But I do think that like the role of the parent on instilling a belief system in the children, like that feels real. Like that very much. I mean, you see it now. It's like where, like, you know, young people who have these really strong beliefs, like where's that coming from? Like it's coming from the authority figures in their lives, like people who haven't necessarily experienced so much of the world, but are already holding these like really, really strong beliefs about like other people in the world. And it's like, where is this coming from if you've never interacted with like any other groups other than your own? Like you're living in these insular communities. Like I can believe that type of grooming where it's like the parents are reinforcing their ideals and values on their children, and it gets consumed. Especially on top of that, it's like, oh, there's a tragedy that has like befallen the family. Use that as a jumping off point to reinforce why this mission is so important. Like these values are so important because look what happened to your brother. We have to like that. This isn't okay. We have to do something about it. Like I could see some of that kind of going on behind the scenes to get to, you know, where we find ourselves in Scream 6.
Fascinating.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, yeah, and it makes sense because, I mean, it was a kind of a big theme of just how killers are made, quote unquote. And I want to go back and reference, we didn't talk about that monologue at the beginning with the first killer about what it felt like to harm someone. And I would love to just kind of discuss, and this is getting into uncharted territory in a sense, but the psychology of killers? And do you think that monologue is believable, in a sense of that could be kind of what ignites, actual serial killers that we have had in the world? Or was that a little just more kind of movie heavy, for the purpose of just, for just the purpose of the movie?
Yeah. I think there's something, I found it very disturbing. Like
Very.
listening to his, revisiting and like relishing what that experience was. I was super disturbed. And I think that there's something that does feel very real about how he's describing it. And like that, and I think it aligns with like things that actual serial killers have said of how they are perceiving like people that they have victimized. And just like there is it's a disconnect because like you're not viewing the person you're targeting as human anymore. And like that I feel like is there's definitely something that feels really real in like a like sociopathic perception of like what's happening, where there's like a power dynamic and then like this person is like no more. This person isn't a person anymore.
Right.
And like losing that. So that felt, I think it was so effective because it definitely felt more realistic.
Yeah. I don't know. That's so. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking more about like the family thing too, because I think on the flip side you have like Sam who's grappling with how she feels when she is like every time she's killing, it's self-defense because people are coming after her. But I think that there's something like, the relationship between Richie's dad and his family going on this path to murder. And then on the flip side, you have Sam who might like also have the urge, but her relationship with Tara, I think is really what's keeping it in check. Like that family relationship on the like parallel to what we're seeing, or not parallel, but like the opposite of what we're seeing with Richie's family is like, it's a protective factor. It's not a risk factor. It's not increasing her likelihood of committing murders. It's protecting her from committing murders, I think.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, are there other influences that can also like the value of family and like that they are this unit together and that being a protective factor from, potentially causing more harm.
So Gail has that line where it's like you can make a family from one person or whatever it is.
I really like in the end when Sam kind of lets go of that urge. Like in all of the previous movies, when it comes down to like Sidney Prescott in a tough situation, she reluctantly hurts someone else to protect herself, but they make it very clear that Sam enjoys stabbing the ever-living shit out of whoever her enemy is. Like she goes for it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she has that, and bringing it back to what Jamie said too about just the family aspect and that kind of reining things in. But it's so funny that Sam stops herself, but then Tara kind of looks at her, and then Sam's like, "Well, you fucked with my family."
Yeah.
There
That's
you
like
go.
Sarah-
Like,
like
we're
Tara-
ending your life.
Tara's like giving Sam permission to be her true self in that moment.
Right.
But that's the only reason why I think she does it. And like she is trying so hard to like control those urges. And so like having Tara around like is going to continue to play a big role, which is why I'm like curious like what happens in the future within their relationship. Like if Tara is away, does Sam have a much harder time controlling those urges?
Possible.
Sure.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, anybody have any other questions for this?
I know we are running out of time, but we got to Billy or Stu the new killers.
Oh, those killers.
Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. It's a scream, baby.
Billy or Stu.
I think that the detective is way more of a Billy because he's like planning this whole thing out. And I feel like the kids are more Billy's, like, because they're also kind of thinking it through. But there's also a part of me that's like, the whole family's just getting roped into this. So like, does that just make them more of like, we're just here, we're going along, like let's just be a part of this. There's some stew elements there, but it definitely feels more planned out.
I don't know. I think I would give Quinn a little bit of stew. It looked like she really enjoyed getting her teeth knocked out.
For sure.
What a great scene. Yeah. Yes. I agree with that. I would definitely put her more as a stew for that.
But and she's even wearing Stu's mask.
Yeah, that's right.
And the brother is wearing, was it Mrs. Loomis, Debbie Salt?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mrs. Loomis, her grandmother. When they said that, I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, I had the same visceral reaction to that.
Wow.
For sure.
So wild. Oh, fantastic. Right. Well, should we Rotten Tomatoes this, y'all?
Yeah.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Ooh. I'm going to say 87.
I was literally just thinking that same number in my brain.
We're connected. That's the Cancerians.
The connection.
We're connected.
I think it's lower. I bet that it is. I bet it's 75.
Interesting. I'll do 79.
Split the difference.
One of you is 100% correct. This has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes.
There you go.
But the audience score is a 93%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, it is
It's so much fun.
Certain aspects of horror's most murderously meta franchise may be going stale, but a change of setting and some inventive set pieces help Scream 6 stay reasonably sharp.
I would agree with that.
That's pretty solid. Yeah. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
As a reminder to our viewers, the 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. Skulls is how well this movie handled mental health and human behavior, ranking it 1 through 10. Same thing for scares, how scary was it 1 through 10. And then shakes, how much is this going to stay with you 1 through 10. And then a suggestion of what you would pair this movie with. And I'm going to do a caveat that it can't be a Scream movie.
Interesting.
So, I'd like for you just do all of the S's across the board, and we'll keep moving around.
Right.
So, Jamie, do you want to go first?
Sure, but you ruined my suggestion.
Which Scream were you going to do?
Obviously, I was going to do Scream 2.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Great.
I take my rule away. Scream 2 is your suggestion.
I mean, it just like is Scream 2. If you want to like see the original Scream 2 and then see how they like evolve it to this like contemporary like rebooting of the sequel, like watch Scream 2.
Also, if you've seen Scream 6 and not Scream 2, what are you doing?
Yeah. Are you confused? Get yourself ready.
Get yourself together.
Get to the source.
You gotta find out about Randy.
All right, so for the rest of my S's, for Skulls, I gave this a 7. Again, I really like how they're, portraying the impact of trauma. There's some things that like don't feel totally believable, but overall, I feel like people were largely peopling, and that's a big thumbs up in my book. For scares, I gave it a 3.5. There are definitely some tense moments, there aren't like a crazy amount of jump scares, but they did a really good job at tension building, and like the goriness of some of the kills really gave me like a big ick. So that definitely bumped up the score. And for shakes, I mean, recency bias, like I'm giving this a 7 because it's still in my brain. I've been thinking about it since I saw it. I'm still very excited by it. So it's probably going to linger. And I just did really enjoy it. I also think this might be a top 3 Scream for me. So I think it's really seeped into all of the folds of my brain.
Nice.
Cool. Matt?
Yeah. So for Skulls, I gave it a 6. because I think they behave slightly better than your average horror movie people doing horror movie people things.
Totally.
Yes.
They made some weird choices, like not holding the subway door when you've held it for everyone else for your sister to get in, and
Yeah.
some things that were just like, this had to happen so you could be alone.
Right.
Scares, I gave it an 8. The bodega scene, the ladder scene, and the subway scene all got my heart rate way up there. It's just like sweating, waiting for something bad to happen. And Shakes, I also gave it an 8, the same score for those scenes. Like, there is something as a New York City resident that makes me like viscerally uncomfortable about a man in a mask in a bodega.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like the thought of crawling, in my building, my neighbors are probably like 15 feet across. And the thought, I live on the 6th floor. The thought of crawling across there actually like turned my stomach in the theater.
Yeah.
And the subway is just gross.
Yeah.
No
Chaotic.
matter what. So like all of those things really stuck to me. Like the scariness kind of felt more real.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
like an old man was just shot and killed in a bodega last week. Like
Yeah.
these things are real
Yeah.
in New York,
Yes.
and they are scary, and I'm scared of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
My suggestion, I went on a tear. I have like 6 suggestions.
Yes.
Amazing.
So if you get your pen and paper out, they're all in a theme. I'm sorry if I take any of your suggestions. I am going to start with Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Obvious one.
Of course.
Which is in this movie.
It is also filmed in Canada, except for one scene in Times Square. It's a trip. It's mostly on a boat to Manhattan. Movies that are filmed in New York. Q, about a winged serpent that lives in the Chrysler Building, filmed in New York. Street Trash, like a grimy New York City, I don't even know what, slime starts taking over people. Chud, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, filmed in New York City. Basket Case, about a literal twin that has been separated from this person that they keep in a basket and carry around New York. And probably my number one suggestion, The New York Ripper. It is an 80s giallo film where a killer calls and harasses their victims before slashing them. They're attacking beautiful models. The killer uses a like Donald Duck-esque duck voice on the phone. It is buck wild. It's crazy violent. It is like, it's over the top. Highly recommend pairing that with Scream 6.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's all. Wow. Fantastic.
Nikisha?
The New York Ripper. Okay.
The
great.
New York Ripper.
In the books, gonna do it. Skulls, I'm gonna give it an 8 because it was pretty believable. Scares, I'm gonna give it a 7 because it was gore. You know, it gave me my horror that I always love, more gore. It fit the bill. And Shakes, I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna be thinking about Ghostface with a gun a lot. I think there was just some really memorable moments that happened in this, and it's just all fun anyway, you know. And so, just because we talked about it on the podcast today, if you just want fun in a chain of horror movies, like go for the Jason X, the Jason in Space, because it's just going to be a good old, all of the gore, just exactly what it says it's going to be. It's not pretending to be anything else. And it's a fun time. So, yes.
Cool. Skulls, I gave us a 6. Scares, I gave us a 4. And Shakes, I was gonna give it a 7 because I'm excited for Scream 7, but I'm gonna give it an 8 because I'm excited for the next 2. I saw this one twice. I love this one. I thought it's super great. And I would say watch Rosemary's Baby if you want like the quintessential New York kind of horror movie, even though
Excellent suggestion.
not a slasher. But that's what I'm thinking. Okay, before we end here, I'm gonna need everybody's new rankings based on seeing this movie.
Ooh. Brian, this is too hard.
I've got mine easy.
Lay it on
Go
us.
ahead. Do it.
1, 2, 3, 6, 5, 4. 4 is still my least favorite.
Wow.
So would a Scream movie have to just like truly be tankful, awful for you to for anything to like get below 4?
I think so.
Okay.
Nikisha,
I have it.
go
I
for
think
it.
so. Okay. 1, 4. I'm sorry. I love 4 so much.
That's all right.
Okay. 1, 4, 6, 2, 5, 3.
What a jumble.
Yeah.
Interesting. Jamie?
I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, 3.
Yeah.
I think
3's your least favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Samesies.
silly.
It's pretty
Samesies.
silly.
she's my wife, and we have a lot in common, and we have the same list as well.
Nice.
1, 2.
That's gross.
Well, I know, ew. 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, 3. I will say 2 and 6 and 4 and 5 are flippable depending on my mood. I think 6 can be better than 2 on a specific day. Like right now it is, but like I don't trust my like right now gut.
Recency bias.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair.
4 and 5 could flip back and forth, but again, recency bias, I just watched 5. 3 is always at the bottom, and 3 is at the bottom, not because it's silly, but because I have a really hard time believing that Roman did it by himself, and I know that's a script pre-production problem, but like the movie doesn't add up for me. I love the Carrie Fisher stupid stuff. The Scream 3 also has the scariest moment in the Scream franchise, where Sydney has the PTSD on the Scream set. That's the scariest moment in a Scream movie. It's no
rough.
question.
Yeah. That's fair.
Well, we did it.
Okay. We did it.
I've got one more question before we
Yeah.
go.
Oh God. Yes.
So you are a part of casting for Scream 7. Who, pick one, ideal cast?
What?
Who do you want to see in Scream 7?
Oh my god. I mean,
I
want
mean, I would
Stu.
love-
I just want Stu to come
I
back.
just want- thank
I
you.
want
Thank
Stu.
you.
I don't care how
don't
we
care.
get there,
All right.
but I
That
would
one.
love Stu
That's
to come
it.
back.
That's the answer.
I'm trying to think.
2 votes for Lillard.
I'm
Come on,
trying.
Lillard.
Come on, Lillard.
Michelle Rodriguez as their mother.
I knew you were gonna talk about her mother. Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah, you can't
That's
find
a good
you
one.
can't find someone like I'm thinking like Hayek or Penelope Cruz, but I think you need someone
Yeah.
a little bit more younger, more virile to believe that they were in like high school with Sydney and stuff like that. So I'm going
Right.
Michelle
Yeah.
Rodriguez. On the flip side of that, just because I love him, I would love to see Michael B. Jordan somehow work his way into their friend group. I don't know. The-
He could be the love interest of Sam.
oh.
in some.
No, because Josh Segarra in this movie as David
Oh, he was
Hot
great.
boy.
was
was
great.
great.
I thought
Yeah,
he
he
grounded
was
a
great.
lot of it. He was funny. He was sweet. I was so happy that we might see him again. I mean, full
Yeah.
disclosure,
Yeah.
we're friends with. I'm friendly with him.
Oh.
But very excited.
Biased.
Yeah, definitely. But
No, he was great.
yeah, but
He was
also
great.
like, I can't wait to ask him like, how did you justify having a ladder in the apartment?
He's like, it was in the script. I didn't write that.
We gotta try to get him in for the next podcast.
I know.
My casting choice is Keke Palmer.
Oh, good one.
That's
That
a
woman
good
can do
one.
no wrong.
Oh my
She's
God.
so
None.
good. And she was in the Scream TV show season 3, and she was excellent.
Yes.
And it would be a fun way to like tie a little bit of that into the movies.
Because she was kind of the one that was like talking about horror movies and like the evolution
Yeah.
of it. And so, yeah, absolutely. Maybe she can be like the girlfriend to Mindy.
Mindy's new
Is
love
that her name?
interest?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Come on, Kiki.
We need to write this. Like, who do we need to send a letter to? We have a lot of good ideas here, guys.
I would love him Scream 7. So if Scream 2 is like Scream 6, I imagine Scream 3 is going to be more like Scream 8 in terms of like now they're remaking the movie or whatnot. I would love to see the opening sequence have an actual famous person playing themselves getting murdered by the thing. So the news is like, in news today, Tom Cruise was killed by Ghostface.
Drew Barrymore.
Oh my God.
Bring her back.
Oh my God, that
Drew
would be
Barrymore
so
playing herself.
good.
Or Heather
Right?
Graham.
You can connect it through the TV show. Heather Graham gets
Would that
attacked.
confuse people
Like,
though? Like, would that be like too meta where people would like be thrown out of it?
It would be very Wes Craven New Nightmare,
that's
where
true.
the
Yes.
actors in Stab are targets, and it
Yeah.
would speak directly to Scream 3,
Wow.
where the Stab cast is being
That
targeted.
took my breath
Right.
away.
Let's do it.
I'm in. Man.
I'm in.
We got to send this podcast to people. They got to hear
Yeah.
it. They got to hear all the things.
The people
Golly.
need to know.
The people
need to know.
You guys, I got a call from Ghostface. He left a voicemail.
Does Ghostface do
It's like-
cameos?
It's like, I don't, it must be some.
Cameos.
I tried calling it back, and he was like, "You don't call me. That's not how this game
Oh,
works."
is that the phone?
And it gives you a website.
Is that the phone number
to go
that's in
to.
the movie? Because don't they actually say a full phone number in the movie at some point?
Yes. I'll send you the voicemail that he left.
Yeah,
It's very
I
funny.
wanna
There's
hear
like
it.
Please.
a moment where he's like, "Do you think I'm not around, Woods?" And like there's like a pause to like
input, yeah,
insert
like
name
input,
here.
yeah,
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 it's so
so
good.
Like
It's so
the
good.
ET ride at our Universal. Like,
Yes.
goodbye, Brian.
Hilarious. Okay,
Shall we
well,
end with a
guys, that
quote?
wraps up our episode. We got to figure out what quote we want to end this with.
Oh yeah.
A really good parenting job, by the way.
I just love that one. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Matt, coming in here and
Happy to be
sharing
here.
with us. We're so happy when you are a guest with us, and I know we'll be seeing you again soon
Yes,
on
yes,
the
please.
podcast. And again, just tell everyone where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram at HallowWoods. Hallow like Halloween and woods like trees. And my website is MatthewWoodsArt.com.
Beautiful. And you can find us at Talk Horror Pod on the Instagram and the Twitter and the TikTok. And where can they listen to us, Brian?
Yeah, wherever you get podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Yes, wherever you put buds into your ears. I don't like that. Wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you catch pods, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, of course. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
And Matt, thank you so much. I literally I was so excited to hear your thoughts on this. Your opinion, like along with Nikisha and Jamie, your opinion matters quite a bit to me. So I'm very happy that you
Thank you.
enjoyed it.
I did, very much so.
Yes.
And I loved being here with you guys to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys. We'll see y'all next
Bye.
time.
Now die
Bye.
a fucking virgin.
Please stop saying the word cock.
yeah.
Absolutely. Good times.